And we're on. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Red Ned Show, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I'm your host, Jay Edgar, and I'm joined on the other side of the screen, as always, by the lovely Elaine. Elaine, welcome back. How was your week?
It was good. How was yours?
It was a little bit crazy. We had some overtime, and I had to cancel a few night streams this week just because I was running up on hours, and I worked 12 hours a day for 2 days this week, so it's been crazy. And the news on top of everything else has just been going absolutely nuts this week. Have you seen some of this crap that we're going to be covering today?
Yes.
It is insanity here, but it stops for nobody here. We are here to cover the news and see what's going on, and it sounds like you're having a good day as well. What was it, a whole bottle of wine in?
Almost. There might be one glass left.
Well, it's all good and it's all ready, and it's going to be all kinds of fun here. We're going to do it live and see what happens there. So, we've got a bunch to get to for the show today. The election still hasn't stopped. Nobody's decided who's won yet at this point here, and a mysterious bill popped up over the weekend there requiring voters to be alive to cast ballots. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. And Suitcasegate. Have you seen any of this?
Wait, what?
Suitcasegate out of Georgia.
No. I think I have. I just didn't know that that's what they were calling it.
Oh, yes. Everything's got to have a gate in it. So, yeah.
Okay.
That popped up here. We'll watch some of the video for there. We'll present the information. You decide. My state has certified, but we're going through lawsuits again. And all of the mainstream media said that it's all stopped dead. And I'm here to fact check that that's actually not the case. A drunken woman testified in front of Arizona. I've got that video.
That was amazing.
I
watched some of that. I had severe secondhand embarrassment from that.
And all eyes are turning to the runoff, so we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. Rudy Giuliani has acquired the coup, breaking this weekend. So we'll talk a bit about what that means for the state of the election and everything else that's going on here. He's apparently hospitalized. He was asymptomatic. But just a couple hours ago, he went to the hospital over it. So we will see what's happening there. Once again, Congress is looking to spend your money with another big stimulus coming out. So we'll talk a bit about what's happening there. Mike DeWine might be getting impeached over in your neighboring state. So we'll see what's going on there. Obama is back in the news because he can't find a camera that he doesn't like. The House has put forward some very, very good legislation, so we'll talk a bit about that and see what's going on there. Pardongate hit the news for about 10 seconds and then disappeared when everybody realized that it wasn't a thing. And we'll close out the day with a little bit of socialists finding the miracle of capitalism and some surprise stupidity, because that wasn't dumb enough. But before
insult of the week.
Yes, before we get into that, we both actually had a little bit of cultural items going on this week here. Let me get the images up there. I'm going to let you go first, I think. So let me get this back up here. Tell me a bit about this while I get the tweet up on the screen.
Oh, goodness. Well, I did not get tipped off to this until I saw a post on Facebook from Spike Cohen saying, I hear you. I have seen all of your hashtags and your tags on Twitter, and I am not addressing this because I already have before. And I thought, what in the world is he talking about? So I sort of did a little digging on Twitter, and I found that Trapped, the band Trapped, that is basically a knockoff Nickelback, although we hate them more now because of this.
Yeah.
Trapped Official, their frontman, a couple of months ago, got into a Twitter feud and a Facebook feud with lots of libertarians, and he made all of them mad. And then he challenged Spike to a debate, and Spike accepted. And then it was an utter shit show on his part. Spike did amazing. And so everyone was trying to tag Spike in on this. They are discussing age of consent laws and whether or not it is considered pedophilia if a 15-year-old boy hooks up with quote unquote hot teacher who is like 25 or an adult or whatever. Um,
I've
long
got
story
the tweet up
short.
here. I can read it out for you.
Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
Trapped
It's
tweets out,
hilarious.
"It's all rape if it's underage, but to compare what a 5-year-old with a priest goes through to a 15-year-old boy through puberty with a 25-year-old teacher, I believe there's a Van Halen song about that, completely discounts what the young boy deals with and will continue to have to deal with. You believe this, you are blocked."
That was not the only tweet. He was going on about this all day long. There are like 5 or 6 tweets. And I checked maybe not long before I logged in, and I'm still not blocked, but I had some choice words for him. One of my favorite insults is utter or complete walnut. And since we're talking about age of consent and pedophilia, my insult that Brittany, our friend Brittany, was so kind to save because she said she thought it was epic, was because I know that Twitter will ban you if you tell someone to suck start a gun. So I said, please suck start a wood chipper, you complete fucking walnut. So that is your insult of the week.
It is the insult of the week. But talking more, wait, before I get off of that there, I do want to ask, did you see the exchange that, are you familiar with Sammy Summer over on Twitter?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Little red-haired girl with glasses and gigantic rack, and she's one of the boobgate ones over on Twitter.
No.
I
stay out of that.
She was asking if there was a libertarian dating app, what would it be called? And some senatorial hopeful out of Utah said, does it matter what it's called? Would children still be able to use it? And I looked at that and I said, why, are you looking for some?
Oh my God.
And
that's
I'm blocked
awful.
by him now. She's blocked
by him
now. Of course you are.
Wow.
Half
I need
of
to
Liberty
link to
Twitter
that
is blocked by that guy.
it.
So.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And he deleted the tweet.
Oh, of course he did. So I'm still not blocked by Trapped. I could continue trolling if I so pleased.
Well, we'll follow that. We'll follow that saga up as we go on. Speaking of cultural decay, I found right while I was getting ready to collate and put everything up for the visual aids for the night, right after I collated things, I picked up my phone and I was looking through Instagram, and I had to screenshot this advertisement that came out of here. Now, oddly enough, somebody in my Discord actually tried the app out.
What's it called?
It is called Replikai. It is Meet the World's First AI Friend.
Oh, that's right. You tagged me in that.
I did tag you in that. I have questions. I have a lot of questions, but my post for that was, I will not live in the pod, I will not eat the bugs, and I will not have only the AI friends.
It's like Idiocracy all over again.
This is just cultural rot. I'm scared to look at it. I can't believe Seawall looked at this because
Uncanny Valley, like that's a thing. I didn't know what that was called and like what all that entailed, but I saw it actually in the context of Disney, the way that they animate their, supposed human faces. All of the like Tiana and all the Disney princesses that are humans, not like toys like Toy Story or things like this, but actual humans, like they're edited in a certain way because humans are extremely averse to things that are non-human but that look human, and it's apparently called Uncanny Valley.
Interesting. I know somebody mentioned that in the comment, and I had no idea what he was talking about. But yeah, I've got an idea now. So that is cultural decay.
It's an anthropological thing, and it goes back to when there were about 9 different species of hominids that all looked slightly different. I mean, Neanderthals look pretty human, but they've got that really strong brow ridge and a jutted out chin and different things like that. So apparently our species, Homo sapiens, we were so bothered by these other, 8 or 9 species of hominids that we were so uncomfortable with them. We just sought them out and killed them. And that is how we survived. So that's why I don't know who came up with it, calling it Uncanny Valley, but that's the reason why.
Huh. Well,
Learn something new every day.
yeah, that's a mystery solved into this here. We've got a bunch to get to today. We've got a bunch of news. We got to get into this. Before we get into the news, though, I just want to remind everybody we are streaming live right now to DLive, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, and Facebook. And if you are over on Facebook, head on over to one of the links above you and get in the live chat. We'd love to host you. We'd love to answer your questions. We do take questions in between topics, so go ahead and get those in. And I actually have DLive up today, so we will be hitting the DLive chest at the end. Looks like there's some money in there because you guys have been very generous with the donations throughout the week here. So we'll hit that and we'll get that back out for you guys. Looking forward to doing that. And if you can't catch us live, you can catch us back on demand over on YouTube and over on BitChute.com. Go ahead and check us out there. And lastly, you can pick up all of our replays along with the Freckles and Brit Show, the Generational Gap, the R-Rated Conservative, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, and the Daily Ignoramus, all over on freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Freshly redesigned this week, too, by the way. Go over there and check that out. It looks great. Everything is a bit more functional. We just got a new website rebuild coming up there, so go over there, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. Got a little bit of cleanup to do and a little bit of quick news stories to talk about here. I'm going to start with a little bit of a white pill after seeing a little bit of that black pill here. From ABC 13, Florida boater missing for 2 days, found alive while clinging to capsized vessel. So apparently this guy went out boating out of Port Canaveral, which is, if I'd have taken the cruise last year before the commie fucking coup took over and we went on to worldwide timeout, that's actually where I was going to be sailing out of. He sailed out of Port Canaveral. He went missing. His family and friends said it was unlikely that he would ever stay the night out on his boat. And the Coast Guard snapped action, went out and found him clinging to his capsized vessel. Looks like from everything I've seen from this, he is going to be okay. He's coming home.
Good.
But staying in the Atlantic Ocean for 2 days,
Not
hanging onto an
recommended.
overturned boat is not my idea of a good time.
No, definitely not.
A little bit of news in the realm of businesses moving, getting out of the high-taxed blue states, starting with Silicon Valley. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise is the latest tech company to leave Silicon Valley and is moving to Houston. And all I have
Texas is the new Silicon Valley. What are we going to call it?
I don't know. I'm just waiting to see what happens when they leave Silicon Valley and vote the same way they've been voting for 60 years.
Yeah. It's not going to be well received in Texas.
Yeah.
Texas might have their own civil war at that point.
Or leave the union again. They've done that once already. Twice. They've done it twice, actually, because they used to be an independent nation.
Yeah, they didn't leave the union. They were originally not in the union.
Oh.
They joined the union and then they left.
So we will see what's happened there. We'll keep an eye on there. From the other side of the country, Goldman Sachs is leaving a large portion of their enterprise out of New York City. Now, some of their enterprise is going to remain in New York City, but the main division is going to be moving to Florida. Let me see. I believe it's Fort Lauderdale. I was about to say Fort Myers, but it is Fort Lauderdale. So,
Okay.
Same idea. They're leaving New York City and going to the places where there are lower taxes, and hopefully they leave their voting at home.
Texas and Florida both have no state income tax, so it's better for the employees as well.
Yeah. Plus, coming out of New York City, they're chasing that fine weather too.
Yeah, there is that.
And
Although they have to get used to hurricanes.
as a Boston Red Sox fan for the entire time I've been into baseball, which has been 10 years at this point, I gotta say too, getting away from the fucking Yankees has got to be a blessing. But
But have to leave. They also have to leave the Patriots. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah. All right. In other news, our boy Dr. Fauci has been named among People Magazine's 2020 People of the Year. The Hill reports on this one here. People Magazine on Tuesday honored National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases Director Anthony Fauci as one of its People of the Year. Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean,
I'd rather see them name Guy Fieri.
didn't he get a city named after him or something because they didn't want to be associated with Christopher Columbus anymore?
Not yet. There is a petition to rename Columbus, Ohio, Flavortown.
Hey, that just kind of fell out of the news, and I don't even know if that's still going at this point.
It's definitely still going because I know the person that started that petition.
Oh, goodness. Well, your boy Rand Paul had some words for Fauci in another article that I have here. Rand Paul says Fauci owes parents and students an apology over pandemic measures from Dominic Mastrangelo, also over at the Hill. Senator Rand Paul scolded Anthony Fauci in a tweet on Sunday suggesting the nation's leading infectious disease expert apologize for his warnings about the danger of coronavirus poses to school-age children. Dr. Fauci owes Rand Paul an apology, one of Rand Paul's Twitter followers said. Paul responded, no, he owes one to every single parent and school-age child in America. I told him multiple times this summer. Well, why won't they just listen to the doctors? Oh, wait, Rand Paul is a doctor.
He's an eye doctor. That is different than being a doctor of infectious diseases. Let's just make that clear for one.
That's
for
fair.
two, school children are not the only people that occupy a school building during the day. There are also many administrators, teachers, aides, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, they could be in a risk category as well. And it's not really fair to just say, well, quit your job. I mean, that is their job. So, especially with the way teachers unions pay teachers, it's almost like a tenure seniority system. You have to be part of the same school system for so many years to get pay raises. So expecting someone to walk away from a career and a paycheck that they've been building for a decade or more is very unrealistic. So
Yeah.
I see it from that point of view as well.
Yeah, I understand that. Realistically, though, and I mean, I didn't put this into the notes for the day, but I read the article on Contemporary. I believe it was Friday morning. Yeah, it was Friday morning because that was my 200th episode of Contemporary. But it was one of the black pills that we had at the end of it was, some kid got off his Zoom meeting. He had the camera on. I think he had he had the camera off. I think he had the microphone off. But he went off and he grabbed a handgun and he blew his own brains out. These kids are getting lonely.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, you have a small child, but
I do.
He's
going
to the building at least.
Yeah. They gave them the option, and because he's in a more affluent district, I think more of the parents are able to work from home or stay home with their kids if they're immunocompromised. Their workplaces, they have enough seniority and they hold, higher positions that they can say, I got to stay home with my kid. And the companies are, making allowances for that. Whereas if you are a fast food worker or a nurse or something like that, you don't have that option. So, it is easier for parents of kids that are affluent. They have some means. I'm lucky that mine can go back to school. I think there are a lot of kids that did opt to do the online learning. I would say our building is his building is probably operating at 80% capacity. So they're pretty close to full, but not quite.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're that little, it makes a huge difference when there's just 3 less kids per classroom.
Right. Yeah, I remember that when I was a kid and just having a couple people out. Well, I missed when most of the kids were out there because they were out deer hunting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That was a big thing where I grew up. So
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a very, very rural part of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But, I mean, now to see this, and they never get a chance to go back. My nephew gets to go to school too, so, I mean, he's good for that. His middle sister is doing some distance for kindergarten, but for the most part, they're going to school too. So, it's interesting to watch. It's interesting to see. A little bit of news from our neighbors to the north. City staff recommends that Toronto move ahead with a tax on vacant homes. And I was going at it with some little progressive about this one. So apparently the idea is they want to cull that little tax money off there so they can pay off whatever federal bills or whatever the hell they have for their medical. I have no idea. But they want to have...
That doesn't even make any sense.
They want to have the money because they don't want the homes vacant. They think that these people are hoarding the homes. So, Yes, they introduced a tax or it's not a property tax, it's an additional tax for people who are keeping homes open. It's set to begin collecting in 2022.
Interesting. Hmm.
So we will see what happens for that. And I told the girl I was going at it with, um, I'm pretty sure that's a fine, not a tax.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Government coercion to modify behavior, I'm pretty sure that's a fine. But no, they're going to call it a tax. And I said, this is government coercion meant to modify behavior. I said something else. I can't remember what it was. And I said, that means that this is a fine. And her argument was pretty much, nuh-uh.
I mean, it depends. Like, I call gambling a stupid tax because if you're dumb enough to just throw your money away, then you're just, you know, it's a luxury tax. So I don't know. I don't know that I would have a bone to pick with somebody if they were going to call it a tax instead of a fine. I think it's a tax either way. It's the government taking money from you, period.
Yeah.
I don't really care what you call it. It's still theft.
Just the way that you put that reminded me. I know you're not into video gaming. I just finished up my year-long playthrough of Fallout New Vegas, and one of the companions in one of the DLCs is a tribal essentially, and so he doesn't understand the rest of the world. And
I'm already lost.
all the companions, they just randomly speak while you're walking around in the game.
Is this like a Doctor Who companion?
Not quite. Just a
Okay.
quest companion, but they randomly speak, and one of the random lines that one of the companions says is, "I can't believe there are big buildings out there where people put all their money down and watch people flip over squares of paper." Your gambling tax, that made me think of that.
Yes, very true.
James O'Keefe got in the news this week. He released tapes of recordings of CNN where they essentially came out and said that they were suppressing specifically the Hunter Biden story and
Of course.
the socialism so that the Cubans in Florida wouldn't see that. Which is all well and good. He sat down with Ben Shapiro this week, so he talked fairly slowly and Ben Shapiro talked fairly rapidly. But the thing with O'Keefe, and I've said this numerous times here, it's cool that he does this. I have a lot of respect for what O'Keefe does. But I need to start seeing some results here because we're not getting any results.
Right.
People retweet it for about 6 hours and then we're on to the next fucking thing.
Yeah, and then nothing happens.
So,
That's the nature of a 24-hour news cycle.
yeah, that's true.
We're never really going to be able to get out of that completely.
And of course, the mainstream media is running down and saying, well, O'Keefe, he got sued a bunch of times. And something about sexual assault, too, and I have no idea what that's about. I don't really care, but they keep trying to discredit him for that. Speaking of CNN, CNN suddenly reports COVID truth after spewing anti-Trump propaganda. So CNN is coming out now, and they are officially saying that China hid the information about the COVID. You know, the thing that the rest of us knew
that.
8 months ago.
We knew that. That's like extremely predictable behavior from a psychologist's perspective of China. I mean, like, duh. It's like saying, oh no, the USSR tried to hide the truth about Chernobyl. And it's like, well, duh. It's the same thing.
So that happened here, and now they're suddenly honest and fair and balanced once again. No, wait, that's Fox News is fair and balanced. Another one from The Hill. Judge orders Trump administration to restore DACA, accept new applicants. So the saga of DACA continues.
Okay. Where's Harvey when we need her?
Yeah, exactly. Is she in the chat right now?
No, she's not.
I mean, with this here, we look at this here and we see that they're just going to expand the program. They're going to use these kids as pawns once again. And now, once again, they're going to sit back here and not know whether this can be overturned at the snap of a finger by an executive. And they're going to be told by the media, again, well, you better not you better tell your friends not to let Donald Trump or whoever the next generic Republican is get elected because all he's going to do is snap his fingers and get rid of DACA. Just deport them or give them amnesty at this point so they don't have to fucking wonder. Which is what I said the last time we talked about this. It's what I said the last 2 times we talked about this. Little bit of Seattle news. Oh, you're going to
And
autoplay
get
too,
this,
aren't you?
Seattle Mayor Jan-
Shut up. Nobody likes you. Seattle Socialist Councilwoman in a bitter recall fight. So, Kshama Sawant, who was one of the people who was protesting in front of Mayor Durkin's house, is going on her 4th recall at this point. They keep trying to do it. It keeps failing, but they're going to keep trying to get her out of there for abusing her office. Now, I was curious about this, and I was thinking, didn't take a chance and look through into this today, but I don't know if they have impeachment provisions in the Seattle State Charter like they do in Michigan. I don't think they have an impeachment provision in my state either, because we did a recall on Walker instead of impeaching him. So, if it's criminal, though, I would think that would be an impeachment, not a recall, but that would depend on what their charter says. But yes, Kshama Sawant is going through her 4th recall.
That's impressive.
Since the chat started in. A little bit on the war front. Coming out of NBC News, Trump ordered, this is just breaking today, Trump orders most of U.S. troops out of Somalia. Nearly 800 troops stationed inside the East African country were seen as a crucial bulwark against Al-Shabaab, the extremist group tied to Al-Qaeda. So, of course, NBC News is going to say, well, we need to stay there because otherwise the terrorists win.
Yeah, okay, so where are these troops going?
Yeah, I didn't see where they're going here, but they're getting out of Somalia at least, so they're getting out of an active war zone. In a statement, the Pentagon says the U.S. is not withdrawing or disengaging from Africa, but I mean, yes, I'd like to see everybody come home, but I'll take 800
It says
right now.
it says if they're not. What does it say?
So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah,
So
if they're not drawing down in Africa, then they're probably just relocating them to another country.
Most likely. But if we're getting 800 people out of Somalia, does that mean we can send Ilhan back?
That's rude.
I
really don't like her. I really don't like her, but that was rude.
Speaking of Ilhan, the Ilhan E Street Group saga continues.
I saw this.
Firm co-owned by Ilhan Omar's husband received $500,000 in COVID-19 bailout on top of millions from her campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is she funneling money into there because she can, because they're married, and that's an easy shot for her. And of course, they never have to testify in front of each other in court.
All right, breaking tonight, a report.
Shut up, Hannity. Nobody likes you. Now they got $500,000 in PPP loans and $135,000. I'm sorry, I got that backwards. $135,000 in PPP loans and $500,000 in economic injury disaster loan. And we wonder why the PPP ran out of money so fucking fast.
I wonder where that economic injury disaster loan comes from. Is that a federal program or is that like through their insurance? Oh, okay. I know a lot of people are getting things that are similarly titled to that from like insurance companies.
My biggest question here is these people have the number in here. What was it? It has between 11 and 50 employees, which if you can't keep track of 50 employees, you shouldn't be in business to begin with. But that's what the LinkedIn profile says.
Wow.
They have between 11 and 50 employees, and they're getting...
That's a big range, though.
They're getting $2.2 million just from Ilhan's campaign alone, and yet they still needed $635,000 from the federal government.
Wow. And other people are getting passed over for these loans, or they're taking months and months and months to get any money at all.
Yeah, and we sit here and have to wrestle about stimulus packages to see if we can refill the PPP program, which I'm not really big on refilling this anyway, but still, they still sit out here and say, okay, well, we need more money for this. Well, pull it out of the fucking E Street Group at this point. Not to be confused with the E Street Band. Seeger is a legend.
Only in his own mind.
Fair point. All right, last one that I have here before we get into the big news of the day here is Kevin McCarthy has come out and released what House Democrats have scheduled for their workdays for the year. I don't know if you've opened the tweet or not.
I haven't seen it.
You want to take a guess how many days they're working next year?
Next year?
Yeah.
40.
Well, you're a little bit lower than what they're at. 101 working days for the whole year.
Okay. I clearly have no faith in them. Wow.
Ron pointed out this morning too, and he actually, well, I mean, it wasn't really much of a crunch of a number, but he figured out what they're making to work 101 days, $1,800 a day.
Wow. I would like to get $1,800 a day.
And only work 101 days out of the year.
Right?
And
Sounds great.
what do most people work these days? I
I
figured
don't
this
know.
out this morning too. 260 days a year is an average 5-day a week work week. So yeah,
Most people work a lot more.
yeah, they do. But I mean, that's average right there. Is your 5-day work week, or what the unions are telling you is average. So yeah, most of America works 260 days out of a year for 50 grand a year, and these people are getting 212 a year to work 101 days.
Yeah, one of the comments I see says, this is easy, do research. For the last 25 years, what's the average? If it's below the average, then cut the congressional budget by that amount. I am on board.
Well, cut the congressional
Approved.
budget. Cut the congressional budget no matter what.
Right, yeah. But the problem is they make their own rules.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the big problems here.
That was a mistake. I just gotta say it. That was a mistake. Never should have happened.
Well, that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I think we're due for a break. You want to see what they're doing in the chat? Make sure they're not killing each other over in the chat.
I've been monitoring. They've been fine so far. We did have someone that tried to post a link, and that was an auto ban from me. That was on Twitch.
The robot should have done that automatically anyway.
They might have. I don't know. Ron is chatty tonight. He's getting on my case about saying that Rand Paul is not an infectious disease expert. He said
There's
ophthalmologist
Fauci, I'm sorry.
hold his bachelor's degree, complete a 4-year Doctor of MD program, and participate in an ophthalmology residency. He has enough training. Fauci did not even practice any kind of medicine other than the required residency. He's a bureaucrat. Yes. But also, infectious diseases are very complicated. And they're constantly changing too, because they always mutate. Like that article we talked about last week, I think, where the Reuters article about how this like fall wave of COVID is 30% less deadly than the spring COVID was. I mean, they're constantly changing. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm sticking to my guns on that one. I'm not saying he's completely wrong, but I'm also not saying that, he can make an offhand comment and be correct either.
Yeah.
I liked 2016. I liked pre-2016 Rand more than current Rand. I haven't seen Harvey say hello yet. Spartan's here. Do we know Alan?
Alan is a regular watcher on my morning show, so this is I think the
Okay,
first
so
time he's
he's-
been over here on this show.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't recognize that name. Hi, Alan. He's joking about CNN suppressing news and saying that's a new low. Yeah, I don't think it's new.
Alan doesn't think that I sleep.
I don't think you do either. Butch is here. Kenya. Oh, he says troops are going to Kenya from what I heard. And the Walker recall worked really well.
Yeah.
Spartan says France has a lot of operations in Africa. Yes, they do, because they have lots of former colonies in Africa. That's another story. Philium says it's a lot of PPP money. And he spelled out PPP.
Thank you, Nephilim.
Trains guest 5 days. Ron says they should build dorms for Congress and drastically cut their pay.
That's not a bad idea, because then they don't have
Spartan
to say,
says-
well, I have to worry about my DC rent.
DC rent is extremely expensive. Spartan says, I wouldn't mind if they made 10 times more, but actually did everything correctly. Here's the thing. I kind of like it when they don't work, because that means there's less that they're screwing up.
Fair point.
And I think we're pretty much caught up.
All right, we will circle back to that. in a little bit here. We will hit the chest a little bit later on in there, so you guys keep talking and keep feeling that, because the more you talk on DLive, the more crypto they mine over there off of you. So we got to talk about this election and everything that's going along with that, because
Again? Is it over yet?
It is not.
It is December 7th.
It does appear that they're getting ready to send electors, but I don't know if all the states are going to be able to send electors on December 14th here. One of the things that came up this week, I've read about this morning here, Congressman introduced a bill requiring voters to be alive to cast ballots, which I thought was a joke when I read this. If you read on the Daily Wire, Clavin likes to put some satire articles in there, and you just read them, and it's like reading the Babylon Bee. But this is actually serious here. A Texas representative introduced a bill called the You Must Be Alive to Vote Act. Let's call it the YMBAVA. So the point of this is to try and get Texas to coordinate with the Social Security Administration to check whose registrations can be voided because of the fact that they've passed along. Did you see anything on this?
I did not, no.
What do you think of the idea?
I don't know. I'd have to see how it was set up.
Looks like they want to try and restrict Department of Transportation and Department of Education funding in order to enforce this. But I mean, that's been a big, I don't know what it's like in Indiana where you live, but up here, we have a constant fight every other year about the Republicans and the Democrats fight in our state assembly as to whether or not we can purge the voter rolls. Now we
should purge voter rolls after every presidential election. I mean, this is common sense. Mm-hmm. I don't even know why anybody needs to argue this, like, at all.
Well, one of the arguments that I got from the chat that the other morning when I talked about this, because I talked about purging the voter rolls last week too, and our resident progressive Flancorp pointed out the fact, well, then we're just going to have more paperwork every election. I'm like, okay, but
if it's more accurate, secure. I don't care. If it's more accurate, I would rather pay a couple of employees overtime for a month to get it right. If it's that, or not having if the choice is that or an illegitimate election, it's a no-brainer. That should be one of the things that the federal government is willing to spend money on, is making sure elections are free and fair and equal. Of course, they're not, because they actively suppress third-party candidates, but we should be getting closer to that ideal, not further away from it. Right now, we're getting further away from it.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand that Article 2 says that you're not allowed to, the federal government's not allowed to mandate anything in elections on the state level. That's part of the way that they wanted to set the election up. But mm-hmm. I mean, there's some point where we've got to try and find some way to do something about this, because we're going to keep having this argument every year. And
every election cycle, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do feel like that as a check on the states, the federal government should be able to say, if you're not conducting your elections in a way that assures transparency, then your votes don't get counted. I mean, what do you do with a state? Let's say, I don't know, let's say Texas, for example, totally hypothetical. Mm-hmm. Let's say Texas, for example, they just decide that if you are a resident of Texas, you can vote, period. Mm-hmm. They don't care about anything else. They don't check your ID. They don't do nothing. You just walk in, tell them your address, and they say, okay, go vote. And then not only that, they never purge their voter rolls, and they mail out all the ballots. So you have lots of opportunity for mail-in ballot fraud, lots of opportunity for like fraudulent ID, things like this. And let's say the federal government says, we need to do an audit of how you're doing your elections so that we can make sure that they are legitimate. And let's say they do this audit and they find that there's an error rate of up to 20%. That's plenty big enough. Even 5 or 10% would be big enough to swing an election. And in a state that is as big as Texas with as many electoral votes, I think the federal government should be able to tell the state, if you do not straighten this out by the next cycle, We cannot count your electoral votes towards the total. You just can't do it.
Well, and there are other ways to do that too. I mean, Styx has pointed out on numerous occasions, talking about trying to get things uniform for elections here, that there is, and I mean, he uses this as an example. There's no federal drinking age, but the drinking age is the same all across the states. Do you know why?
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, the federal government came out and said, if you don't change your drinking age in your state, we're going to withhold federal funding to you.
Yeah, this is the stuff that Trump has been doing. This is not new.
No.
This has been going on for 40 years or more. Ron says lawyers' fees will cost more than purging the inactive voters, and there is the hassle of fraudulent results. I don't care how much it costs, honestly. Like, we should have free and fair elections, period.
Yes.
So I also have a feeling that the first couple of cycles where you're purging the voter rolls, yes, it will be very expensive. But I think after that, as time goes on, it will get more and more efficient, and it won't cost as much in 10 or 15 years.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, every single progressive in Wisconsin, I know for sure because I hear the rhetoric every year. If they actually pass a law where they can purge the voter rolls, every single progressive in Wisconsin will sue Wisconsin the next day. I bet you there'll be a massive class action lawsuit about it.
Right. But the thing is that, okay, I lost it. Damn it. I hate it when that happens.
Oh, you have a train of thought and then the wine erases it?
Yeah. Crap. Okay, let's move on.
All right. So that's what they're doing off of here. I've got this story out of New York, upstate New York.
Okay.
This is on a lower level here. We'll get into the presidential stuff in just a bit here, but I believe this is a local race. Yes, this is a local race up in upstate New York. On election night, freshman Democratic Representative Anthony Brindisi trailed Republican challenger Claudia Tenney by over 28,000 votes. Then as mail-in ballots were counted over the coming weeks, Brindisi's deficit was erased. Then he trailed by Tenney by just 100 to 200 votes, the Examiner noted. And then the Oswego County State Supreme Court Justice stepped in, and all of a sudden, now Brindisi is up by 13 votes.
Wow.
He went through and the judge went through and verified and said, okay, no, these signatures that got rejected, no, they match. They match enough.
Wow.
What's your take on this one?
See, I've dealt with that, though. I've dealt with states being picky about signatures for ballot access, because in Tennessee, when we did our ballot access drive, they did not allow electronic signatures. No, I don't think any states have allowed electronic signatures until this year, when COVID became an issue and we couldn't collect signatures door to door. Then states started making exceptions and letting, a few states did let you collect signatures electronically. But in Tennessee, we always had to be mindful of the fact that there was going to be a validity rate of around 60 to 70%. If you got 80% validity rate, you were doing really, really well, which meant 80% of the signatures matched. Not only that, but they had the correct address. They were registered in the right district. They signed the right piece of paper, because you have to sign a different paper depending on what county or district you're in. It's a mess. So I mean, it's not a mess. It's just, it's complicated. And so I'm used to that. I'm used to states being sticklers about signatures. So just because a judge came in and said, hey, no, this match is close enough, it could have been because the state was being a dick about it in the first place.
Okay. But still, to erase that entire deficit just like that.
Yeah, Trains makes a good point. Most people don't actually sign their name the exact same way. It's a stupid way to do this. Experts need to be trained and have years of experience to verify signatures for celebrities for a reason. Yeah, that's true.
So that's what they're seeing on the lower courts here. I lost it earlier this week. I absolutely lost it.
I missed this.
So Michael Flynn, in all of his Michael Flinny glory, decided that he was going to take the president's ear and make a suggestion, the suggestion that would make me turn my back on Flynn, Trump, the Republican Party, and everything else off of this point. Hell, I would vote for a progressive if they did this. And I would stand shoulder to shoulder to pull them out of office here. Reading from Business Insider, Trump's former national security advisor shared a message asking the president to suspend the Constitution, impose martial law, and hold a new election.
Yeah, that was bullshit. I was mad.
He can't do that. Number one, the military doesn't impose elections here, but yeah, that's the end of it. For the if I hear the words martial law, I'm done, because you can't do that.
You can't.
Clean up the process. Make it more secure for the next time. Make sure everybody's paying attention to the discrepancies. But you are not going to impose those two words on the American people over the progressives cheating. Mm-hmm. No. I don't care if they did cheat. That is a step too far. What was your take on this one? You said you saw this one?
Yes, I was pissed because you don't do that. That's like Abraham Lincoln 2.0.
Oh, Lincoln. Lincoln. So, yeah, it looks like they backed off on that. We didn't hear another word about this, and trust me, because this happened on Tuesday, if there was more talks about this, that would be the only thing that Rachel Maddow would be talking about for the next week. So it doesn't appear that we're going to be seeing anything out of this, but Georgia has lit up on the radar off of this here. So you've seen Suitcasegate, correct? You kind of know what's going on with this here. Let's watch the video. I got a couple of different videos, a couple different angles of this. See what's going on and see what you think about this, because of course all the conspiracy checker websites are like, well, nothing's happening here. So I've got one here. Let's get that one up. Come on, there you go, load. There it goes. And both of them are narrated too, I believe.
8 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to roll this back and show it to you. There you go. So now they're going to start pulling these ballots out from under this table. This table, the black one, was placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So she put that table there. So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting, is the person who put the table there at 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table.
But they didn't see the suitcases go under the table?
Apparently not.
Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in red. So he just pulled one out.
Okay, so there's that one. They had a slightly longer video with a different angle. This one, I'm going to take it for what it's worth because it's OAN, but Zero America News, as our friend the RRC likes to call them. A little bit longer, a couple different angles from this, and a little bit more narration.
We're going to roll this back and show it to you. There you go. So now they're going to start pulling these ballots out from under this table. This table, the black one, was placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So she put that table there. So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting, is the person who put the table there at 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table. Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in the red. So he just pulled one out. So what are these ballots doing there, separate from all the other ballots? And why are they only counting them whenever the place is cleared out with no witnesses? Is the question.
So that's what we saw off of this here. A couple things to note off of this. So it looks like this happened after everybody was cleared out for the night. So all of the poll watchers were gone for this. The questions being, of course, what was on the ballots? Why were they hidden under there? And the conspiracy watchers, I'm talking to you guys, Snopes, came out right away and said, this is what Georgia always uses to hold ballots. There's nothing to see here. This is a completely normal practice. And all that I have to say about that is that that's fine. That's if they want to use a U.S. mail crate that says U.S. mail on the side to hold them, or a milk crate, or a suitcase, or whatever the hell, that's fine. Why are you pulling them out after all the poll watchers have gone home? What did you see on this?
I mean, that's some pretty damning evidence. I want to know how many ballots are in each of those suitcases. And I want to know who the lady with the blonde braids is.
I know Trains pointed out there's another video with the blonde braids lady from earlier in the day talking about filling in envelopes without addresses. Nobody realized it was her until today. So that's new to me. I didn't know that.
I didn't either. I just saw that.
So, I mean, this has changed a few things. And since this video dropped, now Kemp has come up and he's ordered a full signature audit for the state, not just going through and reprocessing and finding more ballots. He's going through and they're going through and checking all the ballots. And the Kraken.
I mean, validating the signatures is the only way to verify that signature, that votes that came in that were mail-in are legitimate. But as we talked about earlier, you have to be trained as a signature expert. I mean, this is like the new hanging Chad debate. You know, do we count the votes with the hanging Chad or not? Like we did in the Gore-Bush election. This is how closely do these signatures have to match, and how, you know, what is the credentials of the people that are checking them? Are they really qualified to check these signatures on these ballots?
And I understand that too. And it's, I mean, if you look at the stats from all of this, I've been looking more into the stats because I'm a stats guy. That's one of the things that I love to do. If you look into the way that they've been doing this, you see Joe Biden underperformed Hillary Clinton almost in every district across the country, except Atlanta, Detroit, Milwaukee, Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Philadelphia, which are the 7 states in question, the urban centers in the 7 states in question. He underperformed almost everywhere else in the country. So it's not, I mean, if the voters come out and certify for Joe Biden, it's not the end of the world. I mean, it looks like he's going to be pretty well hamstrung from the beginning of his presidency. We'll see what happens out of Georgia, and we've got some things to talk about with that, including probably a little bit spitballing over the debate last night that I didn't even get the chance to put onto the itinerary because that was a mess too.
I think that there are going to be some senators and congressmen that just refuse to cooperate with the Biden presidency, period, because they will feel that it's a completely illegitimate presidency and it shouldn't exist.
Yeah, no.
And I'm curious to see what the fallout is from that at the federal level.
But I mean, looking at the statistics there, I mean, there's something going on here. And I need to know what is going on and why it's going on.
The longer this goes on, the more I am convinced that something happened. I don't know if it was a combination of, you know, these forged mail-in ballots or the Kraken or whatever. Sorry.
Well, the Kraken is back, actually. Oh, bless you.
Sorry. Trying to cover my mic at the last second.
The Kraken is back. A federal court is fast-tracking Sidney Powell's request for a forensic exam of Dominion voting machines. They're doing this now, probably because we're pushing on time already here. We probably don't have to go through every state on this one here, but they're pushing for this now in Antrim County in Michigan, which if it hits in Antrim County, which is a smaller county, people are going to start looking and saying, hey, we might have to go back and take a second look at Wayne County here. They're doing this in Georgia, and they're doing this in Arizona now. So the Kraken is happening. We've laughed at this woman for doing this, but stuff is happening from this. There are other people that said they secured a Dominion machine, and they ran ballots 50-50, Biden to Trump, and it came out, what was it, like 20% in favor of Biden? Just doing a control group off of this?
I did not know that. Where was that?
I believe it was an independent investigator in Georgia did that run for that. So
Interesting.
something fucky is going on here. And I'm not sure what it is, where it's going with that, and what's going to happen with that.
Well, and the scariest part is I don't know that there's anything we can do about it as citizens. Like what is there to do? Who do we hold responsible? You can't hold, quote unquote, the Democrats responsible. It's an entire political party.
Yeah.
And definitely not everyone in the Democratic Party is responsible. I mean, there are people who just were voters. They showed up, they voted, and that was their role. You know, that's all they did. So I don't know. This is going to get more complicated.
It it begs the question. It's something I've asked in live chats before. I don't think I've ever asked it on the air yet. But what happens if the electors meet? We get to Inauguration Day. We hear some rambling, incoherent speech about pools and hairy legs and roaches from Joe Biden as he takes the inaugural address. And then it comes out that all this was true.
President. Yeah, I don't know. Civil war, honestly.
He will still be president constitutionally, but what happens to the country at that point? I mean, the Constitution does have it laid out in there. What happens if something like that happens? But societally, that's going to be a major challenge. Another touch on Georgia here. On top of this, now Raffensperger is getting involved with us here. The Georgia Secretary of State has announced he's investigating several voter registration groups on top of this here. Looks like we are looking at possibly up to 250 charges of illegal registration coming in out of Georgia, which is not enough to swing an election, but it's definitely enough to look into and see what the hell is going on with this.
I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore. It's so depressing.
It is, and the fact of the matter that nobody can get their shit together and nobody can trust anybody either. And like you said, this could possibly be a civil war kind of thing if we get to that point. What do we got here? My neck of the woods. So the mainstream media has made their bones this week telling you about the fact that in Wisconsin, another Trump lawsuit got rejected. Womp, womp, womp. They've been yelling that over every airwave that they can get it onto this way. But that's not entirely accurate. It's technically true, but it's not entirely accurate. Did you see this story at all?
No, I didn't.
So this week in Wisconsin, the Trump campaign filed a lawsuit, which he said he was going to. We knew that he was going to. We knew that he was going to on Monday when we were on this show last week. We knew that it was going to happen. We knew what was coming from this. He filed the lawsuit straight to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Brian Hagedorn, which was the swing vote, normally conservative justice, swung the other way here because, let me get the picture up because I've actually got the picture of the page off of this. This one. No, this one. That's the one I want. It is ordered that the petition for leave to commence an original action is denied. One or more appeals from the determinations of one or more boards of canvassers from the determination of the chairperson of the Wisconsin Elections Commission may be filed by an aggrieved candidate in circuit court. Wisconsin Statute 901, Section 6, and it is further ordered that the motion to intervene is denied as moot. So basically, in all that legal speak, Brian Hagedorn said, take it to a lower court. We can't hear this just yet. So that is, at this point, still active. Wisconsin is still certified at this point. I have not heard anything today as to whether or not they got it through to the circuit court. I know that they were talking about getting it done into this, but yeah, they do have to go to the legal channels.
Right, yeah. You always do.
So we will see what is happening for there. And it looks like Pennsylvania is going to the Supreme Court at this point. So have you been following this Pennsylvania thing at all? That's been a really, really weird one.
Yes, it's very strange.
Because it's not that it doesn't look like he's going out and trying to allege that it was fraud.
Right.
It's more of, it's unconstitutional to have this mail-in ballots, which, I mean, wouldn't it have made sense to do that 6 months ago?
Yes.
Am I missing something here?
We're all missing things at this point.
Yeah. So according to, let me get this up. According to The Hill, Ted Cruz and Tom Cotton have come together. They're urging the Supreme Court to take up the Pennsylvania election challenge, and it does look like they are possibly going to be taking that one up. A couple of news stories that I didn't get into the itinerary for today, but some of the stuff that I saw writing on the wall here, it does look like they were going to hear the case, but it was going to be after the electors came up to meet, and it looks like as of today, they have moved that up, so they will be taking up and hearing the case before.
That's probably smart.
Well, yeah, I mean, then we can see what's going on with this. Basically, it looked like when they were going to take up the case afterwards, it was going to be, well, we'll get all this through and then we'll figure out what happened here. But now it looks like, and that does make me wonder if, where was I going with that? That does make me wonder if something has come up that they actually believe that there's something there. Now that they're willing to come up and hear this before the electors meet and decide.
Yes.
Out of Arizona. Looks like first from CNBC, Arizona has officially certified the election win for Biden over Trump. But they had another hearing this week as well where Giuliani sat down and he made his case in front of the people of Arizona and allowed people to sit up in front of the canvassers in Arizona and see what was going on. Where we got gems like this video. Come on, load up. There you go. It always takes so long, and I don't know why.
That's not the case.
What did you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
I'm just saying the numbers are not off by 30,000 votes. So
I know what
are you
I
saying
saw.
that they're filling in?
I know what I saw, and I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
Okay,
I'm just trying to.
Bro, I gotta ask, was that chick drunk?
She sounded like it. Wow. Wow.
The woman, of course, was referring to the signed affidavit that she put up there under the penalty of perjury that she has to tell the truth on some of this here.
Yeah.
But that was one of the images that broke the internet this week, and it was quite funny. What's your take on what's going on in Arizona right now? I gotta pull
She
up
was
another news story.
amazing. I don't think that went at all how they thought it was going to, and it was incredible. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just watching. I'm just in the peanut gallery. I haven't looked at all the court documents. I wasn't there. I haven't witnessed these things firsthand. So it's really hard to say this specific thing happened or that specific thing didn't happen.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to say. But
I've trained myself out of being a Twitter or Facebook lawyer. And so now when you ask me these questions, I'm like, I don't know.
But in the wake of everything else here, KTR News reported this morning, Arizona GOP lawmakers are seeking an audit of Maricopa County. So they're looking for that audit too now. They looked at this, they said, well, something's up. Let's at least have a look at it, which is great. We need to have a look at some of this stuff.
Right. Yeah, we do.
Did you see Bill Barrgate this week?
Yes.
So,
Oh, Bill Barr.
everybody was up in arms this week because Bill Barr came out and said that he was not able to find evidence of widespread voter fraud at the federal level. And once again, all of the media came out and said, whoa, this is just somebody else making Trump lose. And once again, Bill Barr came out and shot back and said, no, that's not what I said. I said that we should continue investigating, but so far we haven't found anything. What did you see on this one?
Pretty much the same thing that you saw.
I said the first right away. I said, is Bill Barr going to be the hero of the left again?
That would be very comical.
Well, it's just like they flip-flop on whoever is willing to turn on Trump. The mustache. Mm-hmm. The mustache.
Oh, yeah.
He was their hero once he was able to put out a book, and these people were protesting against him when I was in college. That was one of the first opinion articles I ever wrote, was after watching a Give Peace a Chance rally go through the college I was going through at the time. I wrote an op-ed about that, and that's what they were protesting. They were protesting John Bolton's will.
For more on this, let's bring in Bill.
So it looks like they're still looking into this. They're trying to figure out what is going on with this and whether or not something is going to come out of this. But the DOJ is probably not going to be the one to do this. And as we saw with the Supreme Court, we do need to relegate this to lower investigative units and lower courts to see what the lower investigative units come up with for evidence, and then bring it back to the upper level, like the DOJ, like a state DOJ would have to go through and investigate this and then present it to Bill Barr, especially if there was sort of interstate coordination that went along with this. So basically, he's just kicking the can down the road at this point, and they thought that he was turning on Trump.
Yeah, and basically the Trump legal team like almost had a stroke.
Oh yeah.
They're like, with the greatest respect to the Attorney General, his opinion appears to be without any knowledge or investigation of the substantial irregularities. But I don't think that's what he said. I think he just said that they have investigated a couple of avenues that were suspected of fraud and found that there wasn't any fraud in those avenues, but he didn't make any comments on like everything.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the fact that the Trump legal team may have had a stroke at this point. Did you see the other awkward thing that the Trump legal team was saying in Georgia?
There's more?
There's more. Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood apparently are now urging Georgians not to vote in the Senate runoffs unless Georgia comes out and changes things up in the election. Did you see this one?
Say that again.
Sidney Powell, yeah, I believe that you don't believe what I just said. Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood are urging Georgians not to vote in the Senate runoffs unless Georgia cleans up everything that's going on in Georgia right now.
Let's just tell them all not to vote. It'll be fine.
Essentially, that's what they're doing.
Nothing can go wrong.
And of course, as soon as Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood said that, everyone started going through every little political donation, every vote that they've done. And it turns out that Lynn Wood is pretty progressive, according to his voting record.
I'm not surprised. Trump donated to Hillary Clinton. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
They're all friends.
Looks like Lynn Wood did vote in Stacey Abrams' primary. No record of him voting in the general for that, but he's never voted in a Republican primary. He's voted only for Democrats pretty much throughout the last 25 years.
So is Trump.
Yeah, that's absolutely true too at this point.
Just saying.
And it's, I mean, people are seeing right through this, and of course, as we talked about last week, the people over on Twitter are trying to do the "Write in Trump" kind of campaign with this. Write in Trump.
That is the dumbest thing ever. Yeah, write in Trump for a race he didn't run in, where he literally physically cannot win. Mm-hmm. Even if he got all of the votes, even if he got 100% of the votes that were cast, guess what? They're all getting thrown out.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't live in Georgia.
Exactly.
He is not qualified to hold that office.
Well, he's not really qualified to hold any office, but let him do it for a little while
residency
anyway.
Requirement, literally residency requirements forbid him from holding that office.
And, you know, I talked about this one this morning because this came to my attention over the weekend. I talked about this morning, and I just, you know what, even if you are, and people have been saying this too, that they're not going to vote in this because they think that their opponents are just going to cheat. What's the bother? They're going to cheat. Even, and this is not just in elections, this is in anything you do in life. Even if you know for 100% fact that your opponent is going to cheat, still give it your all, because that makes the hurdle that your opponent has to cross in order to cheat that much higher and that much more difficult. So yes, even if you know for a fact that your opponent is going to cheat, still give it your all. So
yeah, definitely. Always.
I got just a couple more on the election here. Then we can probably see what they're doing over in the live chat here, but a couple more that are going on with this here. On the runoff, as long as we're talking about this, Stacey Abrams found a group with Senate hopeful Warnock under investigation. So it appears that they're investigating a voter registration group that has ties with the good Reverend Raphael Warnock. They're, let's see, until earlier this year is under investigation for allegedly sending ballots to residents in other states, Georgia Secretary of State announced on Monday. So the New Georgia Project is apparently sending ballots out of state, or registrations out of state, for people to come in and register. in an election cycle that is largely full of mail-in ballots and this new technology that nobody knows how to use yet here. And I guess nobody thought that they were going to catch on to that. Did you see anything on this one?
I mean, isn't that what Andrew Yang was talking about?
No,
Same
Andrew
deal?
Yang was trying to get people to actually move into the state temporarily.
Who has money to do that?
Well, it'll be your democracy dollars, apparently.
Jeez. Unless he's going to fund it himself, I don't know how that's going to work.
He might. He's that insane.
Is that? Yeah, he is. He's a mad scientist.
And he doesn't know math. He's like the only Asian I know that doesn't know math. And we're off YouTube for me being racist. Last one that I have here, just a little bit of a comic relief from off of this here, because there is a massive civil war inside of the Democratic Party that we cannot ignore at this point. Chuck Schumer has said that Democrats didn't take the Senate because Cal Cunningham, and I quote, couldn't keep his zipper up.
Really?
Chuck Schumer, according to a Tuesday report, told Democrat donors that the fact that North Carolina loser Cal Cunningham couldn't keep his zipper up ruined the party's chances of winning back the majority in the Senate. So, Cal Cunningham screwing around on his wife, and I mean, we all know what happened there. He got caught in a texting scandal off of this here. Cost all of the rest of these seats across the country.
I doubt it.
I kind of figured you were going to go with that there. They're looking for anybody to blame at this point.
Anyone to blame, yes.
How's
And if Biden does actually win the presidency, then there will be hell to pay in the midterms. Seats that have gotten recently flipped blue are going to flip right back red.
Wouldn't it be nice to see some of them flip yellow?
Yes.
Just a couple. Just to say, hey, you know what? We're here. We're in the upper chamber.
Yeah, that would be nice. I'm going to miss Justin Amash.
I say that knowing full well that if I do run for the presidency, it's going to be under the R ticket, but that's just so I can get in the debates and slap these people around and point out the fact that none of them have the credit to buy a house right now. I don't expect to win the presidency. I just want to burn it all down while I'm there.
There's that.
Let's check in with the live chat here, see what they're doing.
Shenanigans.
Aren't they always doing shenanigans?
Yeah, so am I. Train says there was another video of the blonde braid lady from earlier in the day talking about filling in envelopes without addresses. No one realized it was her until today. I think I said that one. I think that was the last one we talked about. Ron says the only fair thing to do with the election is nullify the electoral votes of the disputed states, send a strong message that cheating will not be rewarded with a win. I kind of agree with that, honestly, if you can prove that substantial fraud occurred. Spartan says, I should be emperor and end all elections until my death. Train says, I don't agree. They need to throw out the illegitimate and late ballots, then declare Trump the winner like he should be and let them choke on their mistake. I mean, every state has their own rules for when and how they will accept and count mail-in ballots. Some of them won't start counting until election day. Some of them will accept ballots that are postmarked by election day. Some of them will not accept unless they've been received by election day. Mm-hmm. Every state has the power to make those rules for themselves. So you can't just, the federal government can't just overrule those things. We discussed that earlier. Right. Spartan says, Chad did nothing wrong. Don't hang him.
Aw.
Ron says, hold the Democrats who ran the elections in their district accountable for the fraud. Yes, I just don't know that. I mean, there's no incentive for making it. There's no incentive for making it common knowledge. It's going to be knowledge of like 2 or 3 people, or only enough people to pull it off. The more people that know about it, the higher risk it becomes. So I don't think just saying blanketly hold everyone accountable is the answer. Train said, 1776 isn't a meme for a lot of people. It's very true. And then Ron talks about media meddling, etc. Trump has said all along mail-in ballots that were not requested would be fraught with fraud. Only requested ballots by signature should have been accepted. I agree, but also there was no time for states to hire additional workforce to handle all of the requests for mail-in ballots. You would have had to have had call centers full of people. And I mean, working in a call center is not super complicated, but in order to be trained to use a system and have security clearances and all of that stuff, I mean, that takes weeks. And we had maybe 2 months to plan basically an entire election by mail. That's not enough time. Next time, maybe.
Yeah.
But it was not possible in the time frame that we had now. But yeah, I think we're pretty much caught up. Oh, Train said Lynn Wood needs a bat to the back of the head. Ali Alexander is the reason everyone that guy sinks his fangs into turns on everyone.
Defensively, Susan. Defensively. Defensive bat to the back of the head.
Only defensively.
All right. Let's talk about the COOF.
Again. The COOF and the election, they never go away.
Exactly. So, first and foremost, on the top of the news on the COOF this week, one, Mayor Rudolph Giuliani has been diagnosed over the weekend as having coronavirus. Mm-hmm. He tested positive on, I believe it was Sunday he tested positive. He was asymptomatic at the time. It looks like throughout the day today he has been hospitalized now. So, what's your take on this? I mean, other than the fact that he's been in front of every fucking state house in the union in the last 7 days.
And never wearing a mask either, which is stupid. I mean, we're already conducting legal proceedings by Zoom. Why aren't we doing that with this? It just seems stupid and irresponsible.
I don't know. It's amazing on Twitter, too, because, I mean, the party that has the monopoly on kindness and empathy, I hope that Rudy Giuliani dies.
They do that every time, though.
They do.
They were the party of empathy until Rand Paul said stuff they didn't like. And then they were all for mob crowds surrounding him.
Well, and I mean, that's another thing that we need to pay attention to off of this here, because we have to look at the mindset of the Q conspiracy theorists on the other side. Like it or not, we have to look at that when we look into how we handle what's going on with Rudy Giuliani and the election right now, because, I mean, there are enough people that get their news only from OAN right now that believe that Rudy Giuliani was poisoned with the coronavirus because he was talking too much at this point. And if he dies from the coronavirus, guess what they're going to do? Guess what they're going to think? You laugh, but you know it's true.
It was an assassination attempt.
They're already saying it.
Oh my God. This is insane.
There are people on the MAGA side of the aisle that worship the president.
I'm aware.
That
I am aware.
believe that this is all a specific poison meant to take out and ruin President Trump's exalted religious platform. I don't know how else I want to put that, but
yeah, you're not wrong.
I wish a speedy recovery on Mayor Giuliani. He's been a bit of a thorn in my side on some things, but he's been, for the most part, he's had a good political career. America's mayor during 9/11, cleaning up New York City. He's been, for the most part, a net good throughout his career. He's gone a little bit crazy over the last few years, but he's definitely had a moreover good career. I mean, he's in good health. Once he tested positive, like I said, he was asymptomatic. Now it looks like he's taken the turn, but I wish the best for him. I don't know if you concur on that one or not.
Nah, I mean, I don't really care.
Have you seen?
I mean, his life doesn't directly impact me.
Have you seen these crazy businesses that are having so many problems with the new lockdown orders this week? This has been absolutely nuts.
Yes.
Including a guy that apparently hit a cop with his car over some of the stuff.
Wow.
So, starting off here, the Waffle House. This happened earlier on in the week.
Waffle House
no.
taking a stand.
Waffle House they didn't do anything, but they definitely took a stand off of this one here. Waffle House CEO slams coronavirus lockdowns for pulverizing the restaurant industry, and he's right.
Mm-hmm. He's not wrong.
The Waffle House, they used to never close. I don't know if they even had locks on their doors at any point. But now they close because they're told they have to, because a lot of the states that they're in have curfew restrictions that say that they have to close at certain points in the night, close down completely, either sanitize or just be completely closed down, because the coronavirus can only get you at night. They can't get you during the day, apparently, or whatnot. But
only at your table.
Yes. But Walt Emer was on Barney and Company, and he pointed out correctly. I mean, these are devastating to the restaurant industry. I know restaurants and restaurateurs that closed. I was actually going to culinary school for a little while before I moved away from Milwaukee. I was going to culinary school, so I know some of the people in the industry, and I know restaurants that are not coming back right now. In Wisconsin, where we had, for the most part, a fairly mild lockdown. And I imagine places further south that had more of a lockdown. I don't know, do you know anything that's not coming back at this point?
There have been a lot of announcements of businesses closing in Indianapolis. I've also seen a lot of announcements of businesses closing in Nashville. I have some friends who work in the restaurant industry in Nashville. There were a few restaurants that closed. Now, Nashville was a little different in that this past spring, right before the lockdowns happened, like maybe a month before. So we are underestimating our fellow humans, which in this case, I think is probably a good thing.
Well, I mean, and I never wear the mask. Well, I do as little as I possibly can. Let me rephrase that.
I was in and out of airports for like 3 or 4 months, so I always had to wear one because it was either that or you don't get to fly.
Yeah, there's that too. And I mean, I've not been on an airplane since the beginning of this. When I went to Florida,
if my mask is really bothering me and I'm at the grocery store or something, the Kroger that I go to, which is a grocery store we have here in Indiana, and a lot of different places in the Midwest and the South have Kroger. My Kroger has a Starbucks inside, so I will go grab a drink at Starbucks and take my mask off and drink it while I'm walking around the store doing my grocery shopping. I still make an effort to stay 6 feet away from people. The thing that I've noticed the most is that people assume that when you have the mask on that you don't have to social distance because they get really close to you. And I'm like, you have to do both, bro. Like, it's not just one or the other. You know, when I'm not wearing it and I still try to stay 6+ feet away from other people. But yeah, I have noticed that people who wear the mask suddenly think that 6 feet is out the window because, well, I'm wearing my mask, but it is both. You should do both.
I mean, hell, I'm probably going to stay 6 feet away from people even after the commie coof goes away. I tried to do that anyway.
Yeah, I really don't like people that much.
Well, that's just one of the impositions that the government's putting on there. An Oregon doctor this week refused to wear his mask in his practice, which in Oregon, that's probably not advisable because they have government and they will use it. Well, the Multnomah County Board has revoked this doctor's medical license.
Wow. Yep. And that is exactly what my fears are. I think we're going to cover it later with the vaccine and the vaccine cards that they're talking about, is that my fear is not the vaccine. After a couple of years, I think I'd probably be willing to take it, you know, given enough time and seeing, you know, what the side effects are and things like that, how other people react to it. But my concern is that if you don't get it, suddenly, oh, you can't get a driver's license. You can't get your passport. You can't, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, that's some mark of the beast shit.
It is up to each private business whether or not they want to service people with or without masks. That's fine. I have no problem with that. It's private property. I get it. What I do have a problem with is the government suddenly saying, yeah, we're not going to let you renew your car registration, get your license, file for a business license. We're not going to let you do any of that unless you provide proof that you've had a vaccine. That's my fear with that.
We got bumped off the air for a second. Everyone's telling me in the chat. I didn't even notice. I looked down and I saw the little globe up there. I don't know how long it was off for, but
Is it back up?
it is back up. I got my tablet over here and it's telling me that. I'm watching it over here next to me, so we are back up. But yeah, it did bounce back off of there for a half a second. Did you see the story on Crony Sports Bar out of Los Angeles?
No.
So.
Oh wait, the saloon thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I did see that.
In California now, they are going on various zones based on districting and where they are in proximity to an ICU. So the sports bar in Agora Hills, I think it's called, they were not allowed any out after they spent all this money building a great outdoor patio for them to run on.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're not allowed to run anymore.
Yeah, but the movie theater across the
Yep.
parking lot is allowed to have their outdoor thing.
Because the road is a different district apparently here. The proprietor of this particular restaurant, let me see if I can find her name in here. Does not look like I can see it right off the top here. But the proprietor of this restaurant has said, you know what, my employees need to eat. I need to eat and I need to keep my doors open. I'm just going to keep running this anyway because the movie yard across the street is running and they want to come over here and buy stuff from me. Mm-hmm. Which is, Britt said it best. Britt came out and said, you know what? Let's stand in solidarity with these governors and these city council members and defy the lockdown orders just like they did.
Absolutely.
And I didn't get any of that in the itinerary this week. But yeah, we had
we had a whole list.
London Breed, Garcetti, all these people over these past few weeks that just keep going out and going out to restaurants, even though they're not allowed to do so.
Having weddings, going on vacations, going to Mexico for Thanksgiving, etc. It's ridiculous. And I know exactly what the mindset is. The mindset is, well, I'm just one person. Mm-hmm. But that's what everyone thinks. And so then when everyone does what they want to, it's just like when people think that their vote doesn't matter. Oh, I'm just one vote. That's fine. We just talked about earlier. Some guy's short, 13 votes?
Yeah.
13 people didn't think, oh, my vote's only one vote. Then, maybe he would have won his election.
I think they would have found more votes in that one, but that's just my black
But you understand the basic principle.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
On the other side of the country, the co-owner of a Staten Island bar that authorities has said has been defying the coronavirus restrictions was arrested early Sunday after hitting a New York City sheriff's deputy with a car, authorities said.
Wow.
So, let's see. Deputies attempted to arrest Presti as he left the bar early Sunday, but he got into his car, struck a deputy, and kept driving for about 100 yards, even as the deputy was left hanging onto the hood, Busito said. And, at this point...
Not good.
First off, the police are not upholding their oath to uphold the Constitution at this point.
Some of them are. Some of them are pushing back and saying, we are not. We talked about that, I think, last week because Como was like, they're dictators, which is hilarious.
The dictators. But I also have to wonder, and I got into it with a Red Rose Progressive a couple weeks ago on Twitter, saying that, if we take over, then we're just going to keep the means production. You're not going to be allowed to take the means production with you. Well, how are you going to stop me? Well, we'll stand in front of your truck.
Okay,
I'm going to sit around and wait for you, but not everybody who's going to be taking the means of production is going to be as patient as I am.
Right, yeah.
Well, then you're the aggressor, and then we get to kill you.
No.
That's not how any of that works. But, I do have to wonder if this wasn't... we saw Antifa members do this. We saw BLM members do this over the summer, where they would just stand in front of the cars and pretty much dare the drivers to hit them. Or be in the situation where a semi driver could be yanked out of his truck. If he just stops long enough, they'll shatter the window, they'll yank him out of there, and they'll take everything in there and the dude's cargo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I do have to wonder if this was something like that, or if, of course it's CBS, so they're framing this in the worst way possible and saying that the guy went out of his way to hit the guy. But I do have to wonder if it was just the cop stood in front of his car and said, "Come on, bro. What do you got?"
Yeah. Come at me.
For his trouble, Corey James, the deputies, were in standard police uniform and identified themselves as law enforcement officers, adding the deputy who was struck suffered broken bones in both legs. So he's got 2 broken legs at this point. Guy got arrested, and yeah, he's not going to be able to come back and do his business anymore. It says in the article that the owners had declared the bar as an autonomous zone.
That's amazing. I think that Seattle regrets allowing that to happen because now this is happening. And they're like, well, crap. We kind of set that precedent ourselves. So
on the government side of this, it looks like they are going to continue to try and push through a stimulus. A bipartisan group of senators this week has unveiled a nearly $1 trillion COVID-19 stimulus plan with no checks directly for Americans.
wow.
Looks like the deadline for this, Mitch McConnell has said if they can't come to a deal by December 11th, they're just going to say to hell with it and not do it yet this presidential term. But yes, they have a $908 billion coronavirus relief proposal, but there are no checks
For
in there.
who?
Another $160 billion to states, $180 billion for unemployment insurance. 2 issues Democrats have pushed hard. The unemployment benefits would pay $300 per week for 18 weeks, retroactive to December 1st, which is half of what was included in the CARES Act, passed in March.
So see, that I am more comfortable with than the direct payments, because we've seen that they're issuing payments to dead people. They're issuing payments to people who are European citizens who have never lived in the United States. So it seems like it's a little bit safer that way. I mean, it still goes directly to taxpayers if they're filing for unemployment. It just doesn't take into account people who are contract workers that can't work now, that are not eligible for unemployment. That's what it doesn't take into account. It does solve the problem of fraud in the form of we're just mailing checks out to people.
And
But they've also had the issue where there was that racketeering case that we talked about last week, where all the prisoners in California or wherever it was were filing for unemployment benefits and getting it. And it was like multi-million dollars.
Well, the other things that are in this that are in opposition to the direct checks that I think everybody wants at this point, other than people like us that know what's going on with this, there's $288 billion for a Paycheck Protection Program once again. Would free up.
But that doesn't help when people like Ilhan Omar's husband are getting all of it.
Yeah. $45 billion for transportation-related industries such as airlines, and $16 billion for the COVID-19 vaccine. So they got a bunch of money in there, definitely. Joe Manchin, who's been in the news a lot lately, saying that he wouldn't be on board for packing the court. He says this is COVID emergency relief framework. It would be inexcusable for Congress to adjourn without providing more aid. It's not the time for political brinkmanship. This is going to get us through the most difficult times. You know what else would get us through the most difficult times? Open it back up.
Yeah, not having an economy that's locked down.
Speaking of the vaccine, are you ready to get your vaccine card?
No, we already talked about this.
Well, 3 U.S. presidents want you to get your vaccine card.
Well, I don't give a shit what 3 war criminals want me to do.
NPR reports Obama, Bush, and Clinton say they're willing to get the coronavirus vaccine on camera to let you know that it's safe.
I hope one of them kills over. I really do.
Defensively.
That would be so good.
Defensively.
30% fatality rate.
I disavow.
Side effects may include death and dismemberment.
So all 3 of our past presidents are willing to get up on camera and take the vaccine, just to prove that it's safe for everybody here. But they are pushing on this hard. Like you said, they're talking about getting the card, making sure that you can't travel, you can't get a passport until you get this here. And I mean, I don't take the flu vaccine, but it's not mandatory
usually
for
don't
me to
either.
do so.
Yeah, I can't remember if I told you this before, but I I took the flu vaccine when I was pregnant. It was recommended, so I took it. Never got sick. Before that, the only other time I took it was when I worked for a health insurance company. And I basically worked in a giant freaking cubicle farm with like 300 other people in cubicles. So you're separated by nothing, basically. I got it then, never got it. I've literally never had the flu, knock on wood. So yeah, I've had it and I've not had it. I've gone years without having it, never had a problem. So again, I'm not in a risk category. If I was immunocompromised, if I was older, my parents get it. They're in their 60s. They choose to get the flu vaccine. My dad had cancer last year, so he's probably going to get it just in case. That, again, it's up to everybody else. But the flu has not been weaponized in the way that coronavirus has by politicians. Right. So it's a completely different thing, because I've seen people all over the internet. They're like, in California, they already give you a card if you took your flu vaccine. Like, I don't understand why this is a big deal. It's like, well, because it hasn't been weaponized. But coronavirus has been weaponized by every member of Congress, whether Republican or Democrat. Republicans have weaponized it for entirely different reasons than Democrats have, but they've both done it. They're both guilty of it.
Oh, absolutely are. The government is trying to get what they want.
Always.
And both parties are big government parties at this point. You're not going to tell me that they're not, because I'll call you a liar if you try to.
Yep.
So, I mean, at this point, and I mean, the meme has been going around Twitter for the past couple days of imagine a virus that is that's so safe that you have to be mandated to take it. For a disease that's so deadly you have to get tested to know if you have it.
Right.
So, and like I said before when you were talking about this earlier, I mean, this is some mark of the beast shit. You can't engage in commerce unless you have this vaccine.
Right. And again, it's one thing for private enterprises to decide who they will and won't do business with. It's quite another for the government to deny you getting your driver's license or a business license, or revoking your medical license or revoking any other license you may have, your freaking hunting and fishing license. I'm against that too. So.
What is it that liberty-minded people say? License is the government taking your freedom away and selling it back to you?
Yes.
Speaking of Barack Obama, he got into some hot water with the squad.
I love
week.
that segue.
I work on some of these sometimes. Barack Obama has gotten into some hot water with the squad this week and progressives. Basically, from what I read out of this article, and I said this, essentially, they said a bunch of pretty words to get the progressives on board, and now they're coming out and saying, well, thank you for your vote. Now get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Barack Obama says, former President Barack Obama suggested in a new interview that defund the police was little more than a snappy slogan that polarized many Americans and was ineffectual at producing broader reforms to the criminal justice system in the United States.
I mean, is he wrong? Because I don't think he is.
He's not, but that's not what these kids want to hear.
Well, in this case, I don't give a crap what they want to hear. He's right. He is right. It was the slogan. It has produced absolutely no meaningful reform. The only people who have provided meaningful reform are Justin Amash and Rand Paul. Rand Paul with the Breonna Taylor Act and Justin Amash with the Unqualified Immunity Act. They're all still sitting on either Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell's desk. They haven't gone anywhere.
And not only that, with the snappy slogan, I mean, they have produced some sort of reform in local areas because, as we talked about last week, all the police are leaving Minneapolis and the carjackings are going through the fucking roof.
Yep. And that social worker got killed last week for responding to, what was it, a domestic violence call or something like that?
I think that was more recent than that because I just heard about that today.
Yeah, it was within the last week. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
And AOC and Ilhan Omar and the like got pretty pissed about that, about the fact that he came out and said this. Let me get the exact quote out here for this, because I think it works well in context and it gives me a chance to do my Obama voice.
You have an Obama voice too?
If you believe, as I do, that we should be able to reform the criminal justice system and it's not biased and treats everybody fairly, I guess you can use a snappy slogan like defund the police. But, you lost a big audience the minute you say it, which makes it a lot less likely that you're actually going to get the changes that you want done.
But that's because Barack Obama is the age that he is. He's what, late 50s, early 60s now?
I think he is. I think he is just slightly older, no, younger than my parents. So I think, yeah, he's late 50s.
Okay, so he still remembers when the Democratic Party was tough on crime. He still remembers the party of Joe Biden, the party that Joe Biden served in for 47 years.
Come on, man.
That's what he remembers. He remembers not being able to win an election unless you promised that you were going to be tough on crime, because that's what people wanted for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And the Democrats learned that. They adopted those policies. They stole them from the Republicans, modified them a little bit to make it palatable to their base, and that's what they ran with.
And yeah, I mean, pretty much and we saw BLM was getting up on the other side of this saying, basically, well, we got you elected, Joe Biden. Your soul, please. But this seems to be the opposite. Now it's the neoliberals are coming out and saying, whoa, we're the party that we're in charge now, and thank you for your vote, but we're not going to give you what you want here. Because we can use the police to go after our political enemies, or whatever the fuck they're going to do.
Yeah, well, they've always used the police in that way. I mean, and not necessarily the local police. They haven't really used the local police in that way. They mostly use the FBI and Homeland Security now to that effect. But they use that with the leader of the Black Panther movement. They use that with Malcolm X. They use that with even MLK. So this is not new. Democrats weaponizing the police against minorities is not new. This is what they've been doing for a century.
Well, hopefully some of these laws can start going away too. We are running up on the clock, but I want to get on to a couple of these legislations that I have up in the note here, including the one that just happened over the weekend here. Rachel from over on Twitter. She's somewhere in the LP. I'm not sure where she is. I don't know if you guys know each other or not even.
Rachel who?
Rachel Nix.
Yes, I know Rachel. I met her in Dallas when I was there for the election night party. I think she lives in Texas.
No, I believe she lives in California.
Oh, okay. Maybe it is. I was like, it's either Texas, New York, or California. I have to take a guess here. I often forget because people move around.
She pointed this out to me, and I would have not heard this if she not, but Congress has passed a marijuana decriminalization through the House.
Sort of.
Now, let me get the stats here, and then I want to hear your take on this. So the bill passed largely along party lines, 222 Democrats, 5 Republicans, and Justin Amash in support, while 158 Republicans and 6 Democrats voted against, which tells me that the Democrats aren't, completely useless, only partially useless at this point. It seems that you have some words about this one?
Sort of. I mean, you're not really decriminalizing something if you're still charging a tax for it. And it's really hard for me to choose a side on this one and say, is it better to have to pay the tax, or is it better that people can't be arrested for it anymore? I'm like stuck in the middle, like, I don't know. On the one hand, the less people that are victimized, the better. But on the other hand, now you have to deal with, okay, now we're taxed on this yet again. So it just provides more opportunity for government to grow. And it really doesn't do anything to, if the government is going to get involved in that way, it doesn't really do anything to erase the effects of the black market, which is the dangerous part of the drug war and what makes it so violent. So they're kind of just like sitting on the fence and saying, we're going to decriminalize it, but we're going to get involved and regulate it and do this and that. And it's like, okay, well, that means the black market is never going away. Which means you're not going to solve the violence that is associated with the drug war. That is what a lot of people like me are really trying to get rid of. We're really trying to get rid of the violence that surrounds the drug war. So if you go about it from this perspective, that's not going to happen. Well, then people are going to turn around and say, look, we gave them everything they wanted. We decriminalized it, and they're still shooting each other. Darn it. We should just make it illegal again. And it's like, well, that's not the answer either, because you didn't really truly decriminalize it. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating to have to be in that position, because now it just gives us a new battle to fight. Right. So it's really hard for me to say whether or not that is actual progress.
And
I am glad that it was heard.
Mhm.
I am glad that it was voted on. I'm glad that it made it this far. I hope that the Senate makes some amendments and that they vote on it and that it passes, although I have my doubts that that will be the case.
You don't think the turtle's going to take it up?
I think the turtle will hold off on taking it up as long as humanly possible.
Yeah, I could see that here. And I mean, there is the side of, like you had said, the taxes. And I have a cousin, and he is like neocon to the max. Like, this is a guy who's told me that we need a war so that we can issue a draft, and the people that are on the draft are the people on welfare.
What?
That's the political mindset that this guy is going with. But he,
Oh my
he and I were
God.
talking about this, and we were talking about marijuana. He says, "You know what? No, I think
Sign
that
him up for the vaccine. Jesus. We don't
Well-
need that. Please don't breed.
I've met his wife, and I don't think she's very interested in that.
Ouch.
No, she just doesn't want to put a child through her body.
Oh, well, I mean, it serves both purposes.
But to go on with what he was saying, he and I were talking about the same thing, the marijuana decriminalization. He says, no, I don't respect anybody who smokes this stuff, but I think we definitely should decriminalize it and then tax the fuck out of it.
Yep, that's what they want to do. Which means the black market's not going anywhere. The violence isn't going anywhere. It's still going to be demonized as being bad. It's not going to change the stigma around it. Essentially, no problems are getting solved here. It's just a feel-good bill to make the Democrats look good and say, look, we're progressive.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I would like to point out that in the vote total, if you look at it, it still says independent vote 1. That is Justin Amash,
It does.
who is not an independent. He is libertarian. Our lovely membership director, Jess Mears, called the clerk's office at the House of Representatives and said, hi, what can we do about getting this corrected? And the House of Representatives clerk's office told her over the phone, there's only one of you, so we're not worried about it. Yeah.
To be fair, there's only one Bernie Sanders, too.
He's not listed as an independent. He had to switch his affiliation to run as a Democrat.
I
In the
believe he is
presidential
back to
election.
I, though, if I remember correctly.
Not with the official clerk's office.
All right. On other news, going with this, 2 bills passed through the House this week relating to China. One is seeing whether or not we should be kicking Chinese stocks off of our stock markets here. Now, I read the stocks every morning on Contemporary, so I can tell you that Alibaba, Pinduoduo, Li Auto, and Xpeng Motors are all on the on various indices, I should say, because they go between the Dow, the Nasdaq, and the S&P 500. Bill came up this week, and it looks like it passed almost unanimously to bar these companies from our stock exchanges.
Who does that hurt more, us or them?
Us. I'm not going to lie.
Of course.
I mean, it does hurt them to a point, but honestly, it kind of helps us more than anything rather than hurt anybody, because China can manipulate their currency to make their stocks look whichever way that they want, which does put a buoy on our markets in this country. So that's one way that could help there, especially if they're going to be currency manipulators. But I want to point out the other big one that actually passed, and I've got a number on this one here, 406-3, which when you've got the House of Representatives with a 406 almost unanimous vote like that, that means something good. So Nike and Coca-Cola were lobbying against this pretty hard because they take full advantage of this, and Apple was right up along with them here. Bill passed through the House of Representatives this week, barring products coming from China that were made with Uyghur slave labor. 406-3.
Interesting.
And Nike said that they didn't want anything to do with that, which, interesting.
They didn't say they wanted anything to do with what?
They don't want
Bill?
they don't want the bill to, or they didn't want the bill to pass. And they
Oh,
were,
of course not, because it means they're going to have to raise their prices, which is going to price their products out of the market for a lot of people, which means their market share is going to shrink.
The legislation is called the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, has become a target of multinational companies, including Apple, whose supply chains touch the far western Xinjiang region, as well as business groups, including the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So, I mean, it looks like, I'm sure that Trump would sign this. It would depend on where it would go in the Senate at this point, but with the war on China, I bet you we could see this before the end of the term. This could actually do something with our markets, and I don't know if it would be good or bad, but definitely disincentivizing the enslavement of these Uyghur Muslims that are living in China, which honestly, I don't know. If I was a Muslim, I don't know why I would ever go to China. They're a state worship country, and
Seems like a bad idea.
yeah.
But there are ethnic Muslims that have lived in China for many, many generations.
There are. I don't understand why, but they do it. They keep doing it. So
Well, it's not like China makes it easy to leave.
that's fair. But all the stuff, and I don't know how much of this is true and how much of it is propaganda, but they talk about, I mean, the forced labor, the sterilizations. Chinese factories have the suicide nets outside. I wouldn't mind seeing some of that just to verify it. I know that there's propaganda rampant. But if it really is that bad, I mean, maybe it's a good thing that we're not supporting them and holding them up. And we'll see what happens with the pricing. But of course, with the rhetoric that's come out of the White House in the last 4 years, I'm pretty positive that the president would sign that in a hurry. Give me the bill. Hurry up. Get it up here. I want to sign it. All right. I got just a couple more for you here for the week. I got surprise stupidity at the end here, but this almost made surprise stupidity. But the one that I had was even worse. AOC has discovered the miracle of capitalism.
I saw this.
So, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the exalted representative of Twitch, has put out a merchandise shop this week. Looks like you can see on the front of the merchandise shop the Green New Deal sweatshirt. She has scrubbed the most controversial item off of her shop.
Of course she has.
I looked, you know which one I'm talking about, right?
Tax the rich.
Mm-hmm. So, on this website here, AOC is selling various different t-shirts, $27 for a t-shirt, which, being in the t-shirt industry yourself, I can, let me see.
Mine are cheaper.
Yeah. Most of them just say either the Green New Deal. She's got some paintings, some cards off of this here. But the reason that this came to everybody's attention this week was because this one, and thank God the internet is forever, because good people on Google have put this up here. A non-hooded sweatshirt that says "Tax the Rich" for a price of $58. So what's your take on the Green New Deal merchandise shop?
It's absolutely hilarious. I wonder where those sweatshirts are sourced, whether or not they're made with petroleum products,
well,
which would be totally against the Green New Deal.
Well, it's not just the petroleum products. Representative Cortez has made it abundantly clear that these are made in the USA, unlike the MAGA apparel, by union work. And she had to make that dig in there, too. So,
of course, that's why they're more expensive. That's why people choose to buy Chinese products in the first place.
So, at this point, it is, that's what they have. $27 for a t-shirt. No, that's not going to happen. I mean,
mine are cheaper.
Yeah, I'll buy yours. And yours are more expensive.
One.
Yours are more expensive than what I usually get, too. Because usually it's the $7 deal that I get out of Kohl's. But they've got such nice prints that I like so much.
True. I uploaded a new one today.
Oh, I would have to go over there and take a look.
One of them is inspired by freckles.
Let me look and see if that comes up here, because I actually do still have your website loaded in, I think.
I made two versions. One's for men, one's for women, or the men's cut, at least. There's a long sleeve, a short sleeve, a V-neck, and a hoodie, and a tank top.
It appears that it has not made the top row yet on the featured collection, so we will check back with that at this point.
It's there. I posted it on my timeline today on Twitter. So
For
if you
whatever-
scroll back a little bit, it's on there.
Yeah, for whatever reason, when I go to the browser function in OBS here, I can't scroll in it. But yeah, make sure that you guys go over there and check out gunmomfashion.com. All right, and unless you have anything more to go on the AOC thing,
I'm good.
let's
all get that vaccine, right?
Well, let's see what stupid thing came up here today. So this week, your surprise stupidity is this story that I sourced out of the Blaze.
Oh, goody.
High school teacher allegedly naked and masturbating during video conference, police sources say. Written.
Don't be tubing.
A high school teacher from Staten Island was naked and masturbating during a video conference Monday and is now under investigation. Law enforcement sources told.
Only under investigation? Wow.
Law enforcement sources told the New York Daily News. The unnamed teacher works at Tottenville High School, and the incident occurred during a Google Meet call, sources added to the paper. The New York City Police Department confirmed it was investigating a Monday complaint from the school, but revealed no details. The Daily News said the investigation is active and ongoing at the time, a police spokeswoman told the paper Tuesday night. And this is the kicker here, because I'm going to make some projections on this and see if this is going to be true or not. It wasn't clear if the teacher intentionally exposed himself or if the video call involved students, the Daily News added. I'm going to go right on a limb here and say that if the police are involved, then so are kids.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, if it's being investigated, that means someone saw it. So if someone saw it, it's reasonable to assume it was probably a kid that shouldn't have.
Yeah. Yeah, usually when the police get involved, because, I mean, the police didn't get involved in the tubing thing, as far as I know.
No.
They just called him into HR and said, dude, what the fuck?
Basically.
Why would you do that? I mean, at what point in the Zoom meeting is it appropriate to whip it out and start pulling it? I've never been in a Zoom meeting where I've been tempted to do that. Ever.
I would hope not.
Even in a long distance relationship with a girlfriend at the time, a few years ago when I was going out with a girl that
I
lived in
really
Chicago.
don't need details. I'm good.
I was never tempted, even in those situations. I was never tempted for that.
You were going to get us kicked off of YouTube.
Oh, it's going to happen eventually anyway. I've got a backup channel already set up. So,
oh my God, Ron, stop. I can't with you right now.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I love that. Okay. That's all that I have for the day.
I can't with you guys right now. I just can't.
Oh, you want me to read the chat?
No.
Okay.
I thought we were just going to end it there because now they're being really inappropriate.
Well, we got to read for them, and I got to open the chest here. So we got to go grab at least a couple of what they were doing here for the past few minutes.
All right.
And I'm going to pop the D-Live chest while Elaine is reading. So.
Okay. So QAnons are already painting it as the public execution of Trump's secret war against the deep state. I guess that comment was from Trains. I think we're talking about Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah.
Or about the vaccine. And Ron says he would rather catch the vaccine than have cancer. Totally agree. Trains never had the flu for 20 years, but it's horrid. It repeats every year for a decade or more to lessening degrees. Ron says private enterprises should not be allowed to deny access. They are acting as agent of the governments at that point. They are not experts on the virus, nor should they ask you to take a vaccine for a virus that is 99% survivable. That is just insane. It's private property. Sorry. Ron also says BLM has accomplished nothing. I totally agree. And I mentioned that I totally agree that they haven't affected any change. And I say that as someone who agrees with many of their necessary reforms, but completely disagrees with the solutions that they are advocating. Train said progressive drug pushers get what they get. As far as I'm concerned, they will eventually give social workers special powers to have police arrest mental health risks to skirt the laws. Probably true. Spartan says only people in the military will be allowed to smoke cannabis under my absolute authority. Train says, Spartans, you just got overthrown. Pretty much, yeah. Spartan also says, one of the biggest stocks that might make me rich is Chinese. Crap. Said the F word, but I can't say that.
Yeah, you can. Let's never stop me.
Fuck. Every person who votes for that should spend his life in prison. Train says they're part polyester. The shirts, the t-shirts. Okay. And I'm not going to read those two comments. Y'all just have to deal with it. You're all in timeout.
All right, well, that's going to be it for the night here. We are going to head on out of here for the night. Thanks, everybody who came by, chatted with us, hung out with us. If you're looking for a way to support the show or come out and help us further, we have the Subscribe Star link in the description along with PayPal. Throw us a couple bucks here. Help me retire the old HP because she's getting old. She's getting ready to go. So come on and help out with that. But otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, share this out, tell a friend, tell 10 friends, tell some more people to get in here and get the chat more lively and come and hang out with us every week. I will be back here in the morning for more contemporary and see just what they fucked up throughout the rest of this day today, because there's probably a little bit. Elaine will be back here this coming Saturday.
Yes, I will.
We will be doing Across the Board this coming Saturday, talking about how liberty is portrayed in the media, inspired by listening to Eddington's speech from Deep Space Nine this past week. So that's going to be a good time. I've got, I think I've got 4 guests confirmed. I'm going to go do a round table with everybody and make sure that everybody's on board before I get the announcements out. But watch the Twitter for that. You can find me over on Twitter. That's at Edsblog Twitter with a 1 in place of the I, or my wonderful co-host at LibertarianRed1. Go and check both of us out over there. Give us a follow as well. And lastly, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Lead them on out of here.
Have a good week and make good choices. We will see you next Monday.
Take care.